Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Healing Train. I am your coach, your conductor, otherwise known as B.Von Squires. And today we are sponsored by Spirit Source Connection. At Spirit Source Connection, we believe that we're multidimensional, energetic beings, that we have a mind, a body, and a soul, that we need to address all of these components of who we are in order to achieve homeostasis, which is alignment of our mind, body, and soul. But the reason we're here today is because it is the healing train where ordinary people come to talk about their extraordinary trauma healing experiences. And each week we bring you a new passenger who brings authenticity, who brings vulnerability, who brings transparency as we walk them through the healing process. And today is not going to be any different. We have a wonderful passenger here for you today. Her name is Sylvia Tarpley. So, Sylvia, can you please come on and say hello to the community?
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be upon the healing train today. Hi, Coach. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to have you here. Now, I know that everybody's trauma is not the same. There's going to be some ups and downs and twists and turns along the way. So, let me
Yes.
give you a little idea of how this is going to work.
Okay.
I wrote a book and it's called The Energy Harvest, a spiritual model for the enhancement of your life. It's a workbook and there are four phases. There's the identify phase, where Sylvia is going to identify a particular trauma experience today. From there, we're going to walk her into the mindset that she had to adapt in order to heal from the trauma. And then, of course, we're going to ask her all about the wonderful things she's been able to achieve since she has gotten the healing from the trauma. And then, how does she sustain all of these wonderful new practices in order to keep herself smiling and feeling positive on a daily basis? So, with no further ado, we're going to just jump right on in and talk to Miss Sylvia Tarpley. Now, Sylvia, thank you so much again for being here. This is so
Thank you.
exciting to have you here.
Yes.
Now, we know that sometimes it's hard or difficult to identify trauma because a lot of times it becomes so normalized
Mhm.
in the household. And so you never even realize that you've been traumatized.
Right.
So,
Right.
what we're going to ask you to do for us today is tell us or help us understand how you were able to identify the trauma you're going to speak about today.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Sylvia, and um, prior to me connecting with you, I didn't realize that I had trauma. And so the trauma that I'm going to talk about today is financial trauma. As you can see, I'm also known as the debt crusher, and I teach families and communities how to reduce their debt, eliminate bad debt, reduce their debt, and increase their scores and create a budget. So I was like, how did I, I didn't think there was any trauma. And I really thought about it. And so the trauma I believe, stemmed from growing up in public housing.
Ooh.
And so I lived in public housing, the same public housing from kindergarten to my senior year in high school. Okay. And so all my young life I lived in public housing. And we moved out in my senior year. By the time we moved out, I was already a teen mother. And so we moved out of public housing, but years later, maybe 6 or 7 years later, I had two children. And so living in Brooklyn, New York, we all know how the rent was. It's even higher now, I believe. But back then it was high, it wasn't affordable. So what do? You apply for public housing. And once being there, I said, I can't live like this. This is not where I want my children to live. I don't want them to live in scared to go to sleep because we have roaches and we have mice, or we lived on the eighth floor. I can't get on the elevator because the elevator is broke. Or when you get on the elevator, you don't want to touch the walls. You got to watch where you step in. People that you see today are murdered tomorrow. And just a lot of that whole atmosphere is traumatic when I thought about it. Like, of course, there was trauma there. The whole living arrangement is traumatic. You know, when you can't live, you can't be a kid, you just can't. And so um, I remember wanting to move, and in New York, it's most people live in multi-family houses, two-family houses, and I was working towards doing that with my mom. So I thought, um, but I had a friend in church that lived in Virginia, and so I would visit Virginia, take my kids. We would get on the Peter Pan bus or the Greyhound bus and take it to DC. She would pick us up, and she lived with her parents too. And I saw a whole new world outside of Brooklyn, outside of church. I saw a whole new world, and I'm like, wow, it's this is a nice place. And one day it was a group of us, we all went and looked at houses. None of us got approved. We all applied for these beautiful houses. I don't know what we were thinking, and none of us were approved. And the gentleman that showed us, I wish I knew his name, that showed us the house, told us to go home and do this, that, and the other, and then reapply. And when I tell you, I remember what he told me to do. I went back to Brooklyn and I started at that point. But to answer the question, the trauma was just living in poverty, and it could drain your hope. You
Yes.
know, it
Oh, yeah.
drains your hope. It seems like there's no way out. I grew up in, I mean, and it's multiple generations in public housing.
Yeah.
And not to speak against it because I wasn't homeless. I had a place to live, but it can do something to your self esteem and to hope.
Oh,
It
yeah.
like dries it up.
Oh, yeah.
And so I believe that was what was my trauma. And it was due to finances, not being able to afford anything else, you
Right.
know? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Sylvia, I am so glad that we're having this conversation. There
Yes.
are so many people in our community that can identify with what
Yes.
you're saying. And like you said, generations upon
Hmm.
generations living in poverty, not
Yes.
having any other recourse except public housing. And
Right.
like you said, you're grateful for that roof over your head,
Hmm.
right? But it
Right.
was traumatizing.
It
Like you
was.
said, living with rodents and mice and things like that. And no matter how much you clean your house, it's
Yes.
not, it's like they're built into the walls. It's
Yes.
like it's no matter
Absolutely.
and I can see how that would affect your
Hmm.
self-esteem,
Hmm.
not wanting to have company over maybe,
Yes.
or things like that,
Hmm.
because it makes you feel like you were less than, even though as an individual and as a person you're not. Just your
Right.
surroundings were a little
Hmm.
less, than somewhere else. So I
Yes.
understand. Even though it may have become the norm, it doesn't mean that it wasn't traumatizing. It
It
doesn't
was.
mean that. And
Yes.
as you can see for yourself, you said, hey, wait a minute, this is not what I want for my children. This is not what I
No.
want for my life.
Mm.
And then you were able to see what was
What was
possible
the
for you.
options?
Oh
Yes.
my
Another
gosh,
option.
that is
Yes.
so huge. Do you know how many people never even make it out of
Hmm.
their own city, out of their
Hmm.
own town to see what's available? That's
Right.
why I'm so grateful for your story today, because someone is out there in their public housing
Hmm.
watching this very video, listening to you talk about how you were able to make it out, how you were able to turn things around. I
Right.
cannot wait to find out more about your story. Okay, guys, we're going to keep it moving here with Miss Sylvia Tarpley. We talked about how she was able to identify her trauma, and now we're going to move into what was the mindset that Sylvia needed to adapt in order to heal from the trauma. Was there some forgiveness that may have needed to take place? I don't know. You can tell us though, Sylvia, what was your mindset, that kept you feeling like, I got to move out of here. I got to heal from this. I got to heal my situation. I got to change my environment. What was the mindset that went along with that?
I definitely had to renew my mind. I had to
Mhm.
renew my mind, and because I now had the tools, it gave me a goal to work on. And so I had to look at finances differently. It wasn't all about, when you get your refund and you have that poverty mentality is, oh, I'm going shopping. I'm going to take this money. I'm going to go shopping. We all coming in the dirty elevator with bags full of clothes. It was just a poverty mentality. So I had to change my mindset. And at the time I was in school, I was going to Mega Evans College, and I took my refund and started paying off my debt.
Ooh.
And I took my tax refund and started paying off my debt. It took me 2 years, but I had to stay focused on on the plan because I already saw the promised land. I already saw the option of what my options were. This man gave me the plan. I believe he was a godsend. He
Uh-huh.
gave me the plan. I worked the plan and it worked. So I had to
Woo!
change how I looked at money. I had $10,000 worth of credit card debt. And one of the credit cards, people laugh when I say it all the time. One of my credit cards was a gas card. I didn't have a car. I didn't know how to drive. I didn't drive until I moved to North Carolina, a
Okay.
year after I moved to North Carolina. So that goes to show you the mindset I had. To me, that was, I guess at the time, it was wealth. It was just being, lack of knowledge. It was just, oh, I got this credit card. I can go here, I can go there. Why do you have a gas card? You don't even know how to drive. You don't
Oh
own a
my.
car. So it was that bad. I had to renew my mind. But it took me 2 years. But I achieved it. I had zero debt. Um, and
Wow.
I did that before I left New York.
Wow, that's exciting to be debt
Mm-hmm.
free. Oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
that is a wonderful feeling. I have achieved that before in my life as well, and I
Mm-hmm.
understand that mentality change. I had to
Yes.
change the way I looked at money. I had
Mhm.
because I had a scarcity mindset, like there
Right.
wasn't going to be enough. And then I had
Right.
to remind myself who the God of my understanding, the God of this universe, my creator, is
Hmm.
not going to allow me to do without. I just need to
Right.
be a good steward of
That
the
part.
money, right? A good
Yes.
steward of
Hmm.
the money, of the
Yes.
finances, and
Yes.
so I understand about that mind shift. Instead
Hmm.
of going out there spending my money on dead end products,
No
right?
value. No
No
value.
value whatsoever except making other people rich.
Hmm.
Okay, so Mr. Nordstrom, oh, he's going to be real rich.
Hmm.
Mr. Macy, oh yeah, they're going to be real rich because we go out here, like you said, and spend up
Right.
the refund money because
Hmm.
so we're so used to not having anything.
Hmm.
We just
Yes.
want to feel normal. We just want to feel better. And
Hmm.
once a year is our chance, right? Once a year
Yes.
is our chance to feel
Once
better.
a year.
Whereas if we would take that, like you said, and apply some principles to that,
Right.
we could feel good about ourselves because we're getting out of debt. We're using that money
Hmm.
wisely. We're making our investments. We're saving. We have an emergency fund. All of
Right.
these things, right?
That's
And so I'm
right.
so glad that we're talking about this today. Wow, so exciting. And then what you also said is that you had a vision. You
Yes.
already saw where you
Hmm.
wanted to go.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
don't have to perish for a lack of vision. All we have to
Right.
do is to be able to go out there and see what is
Right.
available. And then you said a man gave you a step by step process. Isn't that
Hmm.
the way when you have
Yes.
step, all you got to do is follow the
Follow the
plan.
step.
Stick to
Follow
the
the plan. That's all you got to do. All you have to do is
plan.
follow the plan. And
Oh
he
my
gave me the
goodness.
plan, and I tell you, it worked. Now, because I know more now, some things, I could have done differently, but it worked. What he gave me
Absolutely.
absolutely worked.
There
And
you
I
go.
am a witness.
Wow, that is so exciting. And so, what we're hearing today, guys, is that if you have a plan, right, and
Mhm.
a vision and the
Yeah.
willingness to take your time going through step by step, you're going to get to where you're going. You're going
Yes.
to achieve that success. Which
Mhm.
brings us to our next phase of the book, which is the achieve section of the book. And so, Sylvia, once you were able to adapt a new mindset, around finances. You were able to stop just blowing your money on whatever. And what tickled me is when you said you had a gas card and didn't even have a car.
I tell you, everybody laughs at that, but it's the truth.
But that just goes to show where you were
Yes.
mentally, and that
Hmm.
you needed some help. And I'm so glad that God gave you
Me
that
too.
wherewithal, right? That
Yes.
moment of clarity
I'm
that said,
grateful.
wait a minute,
Yes.
what am I doing? So, and so you were able to achieve some wonderful things once you got your mind wrapped around what you wanted and found the discipline to go forward in the
Right.
process. You were able to achieve some things. Now, come on now and tell us all the things that you've been able to achieve since you changed your mindset and since you started on this journey.
So there's so many. First of all, there's the freedom of knowing when you apply for something, you're going to get it. So when I
Wait,
got down here, there was no problem with me getting an apartment because I didn't have bad rental history.
right.
And I didn't have bad credit.
Mhm.
Uh, and like I said, I was here a year before I started driving, but I got tired of the long bus route. It did not work like it worked in Brooklyn. It was just totally different and didn't run all the time. And I joined the credit union here, and it was something in the statement about applying for a car. And I was like, I think I need to get a car already. So I applied for the car, and all although I paid everything off, it was still on my credit. Now,
Oh,
mind you, I'm still naive to how credit works because I only did what the man told me to do,
mhm.
and I paid everything off. The crazy thing is, I'm a mail person. I have mail all the time. I'm scared to throw it away. But I had the mail, I had all of documents showing that I paid it off. So
Okay.
I applied online at work. I applied, and the credit union called me and said, "Can you prove that you paid all this stuff off?" I'm telling you, I had it in my purse. I don't know why. It was in my purse. I faxed all of it from work to the credit union, and I got a car loan. And I'm like, I can't believe I got a car. And so it was things like that, like the things we don't think about. Because I tell people, you don't credit is not important until you need it,
There you go.
and it's not something you can fix today and tomorrow. No, it's a process. It takes they I know Credit Karma shows that they report every day. No, they're reporting once a month.
Yes.
So it's not something you could fix like that and get approved. And so thank God I had the forms, but I was approved. So it afforded me an apartment. I was able to get a car loan. Eventually I purchased a home. It was just different things like that that it afforded me to do. I wrote a book.
Hey, tell us
So I'm an author.
about the book.
I do workshops. I help other people. So I know that there's other people who felt like I felt, you know. So it just broadened my horizons to not just help myself, but my family, my community, um, and not just the material things. And it gave me discipline because if God can, if God sees that you are managing your money, your income that He's giving you, it opens doors to stuff that you don't even need credit for,
Mhm.
you know. But it taught me a discipline
Yes.
that you don't have to spend all your money. You don't, it just taught me a discipline on how to handle my finances. So that's a great benefit. Even if I never buy a home, a car, or anything, I'm a good steward of what God blesses
Oh, wow. That is so incredible. I'm so excited to hear about the
me.
book that you wrote. That is so
Mhm.
awesome. That is such an achievement. And
Mhm.
not only did it probably bless your soul to write it, but I'm sure that anybody that has encountered it has a big blessing from going through the book as well.
I pray.
You know,
Yes.
the one thing I heard you say is that you have the confidence in knowing that anything you want, you can have.
Mhm.
You have the confidence in knowing that if you apply for something and it's credit related, or finance related, that you're not going to have any issues whatsoever because you did the hard work. You
Right.
made the tough sacrifices, and
Hmm.
you learned a skill, because it is a skill. It's a whole new
Yes.
mindset and a whole new skill.
Hmm. It's a
And it'll
lifestyle.
take your life and turn it all the way around, like a total 180.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy to hear us talking about these. And
It's
so,
definitely it's like losing weight.
uh-huh,
Yes, you could take the medicines that'll make you lose weight quickly, but it has to be a lifestyle change.
yes,
And it's the same thing with your finances because life, I always tell people, life happens. So there's death, there's divorce, there's unemployment, there's sickness, there's different things that happen that affects our finances.
yes,
And so that's why I like to teach people. I know we have people who will fix it for you, but my portion is to educate people so that when life happens, because since I've told you I left, have I not had financial issues? That would not be the truth.
yes.
But I knew what to do
Yeah, there
to
you go.
get back on track
There you go.
because life does happen. And each time I learned something new um, in the process and was able to help others.
Sure.
So, no, I may not have the perfect credit all the time because life has happened. And like I said earlier, you can't fix credit overnight.
Right. Right
It's a
now.
process. You have to wait out that process sometimes. Like when I was divorced and I went through financial issues, and I said, God, I had a daycare, and I went back into my house and made it a family daycare. And I said, God, I need a house. I was renting, like I need my own house. I knew what to do to get the house, and I knew that it would be easier for me to get the house if I had a W-2 versus being self-employed.
Okay.
And I said, God, I need a job making what I'm making on my own or more. I knew I wasn't going to get approved, but I went and applied just so I could see what I was working with.
Yes.
And I knew that it would take a 2-year process. I wanted to know what the bank wanted, the information I needed, and I worked the plan. And sometimes we throw in the towel or we want a quick fix. But every time you mess up, are you going to pay somebody to fix your credit? So
No.
we need, and I think when you see the hard work in the process, you'll think twice about some of the financial choices that you make. Is it really
Absolutely.
worth it?
Absolutely. And that's what I found as well. The hard work that I put in, I started seeing my credit score go up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good
Pride.
feeling. That is
Mm-hmm.
such a great
It
feeling of
is.
accomplishment. And it
Mm-hmm.
definitely had my self-esteem soaring through the
Yes,
roof.
absolutely.
And I'm just so grateful that I learned those things. And like you said, nobody's perfect. You fall off,
Mm-hmm.
things happen, and then you just got to get back on track. It's not
Right,
a matter of not knowing any longer. It's just
right.
about reapplying yourself and being disciplined, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
All right, guys, we are just here talking to Miss Sylvia Tarpley, all about finances, Miss Debt Crusher herself. Crushed her own debt and then wrote a book to help other people crush their debt too. Oh my goodness, what an amazing accomplishment. Talking about how self discipline and self esteem is affected when you are making good financial choices.
Yes,
And so
it
now
is.
we're going to roll into the next phase of the book, and we're going to talk about sustaining. Now, we know, like we talked about, like with anything, it has to be a lifestyle.
Mhm.
There are no quick fixes.
Right.
You can't fix this overnight. And so, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of routine, in terms of those sorts of things, how do you sustain your financial standing, your financial mindset that you had to achieve, your self-discipline? How do you sustain all of that on a regular basis and keep yourself, like equilibrium?
Right. You have to be intentional. Everything has to be intentional. You have to count the cost. You have to think before you make decisions. Is this worth it? And sometimes, like I said, life happens. Sometimes you like, I'm gonna have to pay for this. this decision later. Unfortunately, we do have to do that if we're going to be real about it. But you just have to be intentional and think about the choices, think about your consequences, um, and stay educated.
Okay.
And a lot of what I learned, I read books a lot. And sometimes when you're the first person in your family to do something, sometimes your elders can't tell you how to do it or what to do. And so now with social media, we have different, ways we can log on to the healing train. We can do different things to find out different information. It wasn't so accessible at one time. And so I read a lot of books. And so you have to keep educating yourself. Everybody isn't going to go to college or can afford college, but pay for a course. Someone may have a course, pay for a course, do something, invest in yourself. Um, and find out about new trends, but you have to stay educated, you have to stay consistent, and you have to be intentional. And find an accountability partner too.
Oh, I love that, especially the accountability partner part.
Yes.
If you're going to make a purchase over $500, you need somebody to co-sign
Mhm.
verbally,
Right.
not signing because you probably wouldn't need it, a co-signer like that. But what I'm
Right.
saying is someone to hold you accountable, someone to
Right.
talk about it with. I'm telling you, I had someone like that in my life. There were days where I wanted to spend money,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Oh my God, I want to spend money and I don't need anything."
Right.
I just want to spend money. Just because I see I got paid today, I want to go spend some money. That's not a
Right.
reason to go spend money just because I got paid today.
Hmm.
And so what I had to do is I had to understand that upfront, take everything out. If you can, direct deposits before you even get it.
Right.
That's me.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
once I get it, all those great ideas that I had about saving it, it was
Hmm.
hard. It was very difficult. And so I put some things in place,
Absolutely.
that will
That's
save me.
intentional.
Yes.
Exactly. You have to get an intentional plan. Like I have three accounts where money comes out before I even see my check. And
Yes.
one of them is on a Chime card. And that money is loaded on there before my money hits the bank. And so if I need, a little lunch money, a little gas or something, I use that card. Um, and so it kind of gets me through if I don't, and I'm happy. And the challenge is not to touch it before I get paid again. And I'm like,
Oh, okay.
oh, this is building, this is building. So do I really need to buy that? Do I really need to eat out? Can I pack lunch? You have to have a plan and you have to be intentional. But I like that about setting up the savings account. That's
Mhm.
one thing that I tell people to do. You set up a savings account. If you touch that money before you get paid, you're saving too much money.
Okay. I like
Yeah.
that. So then you just kind of tweak it a little
You
bit
just tweak
so
it
that you
until
don't have
you
to go
get to the
into that.
point where you're not touching it.
I
But if
love
you
it.
have to keep going in there before you get paid, you say, I don't care. The world may say 20%, but if 20% of your check is too much, adjust it.
Right.
Adjust it until you're not touching it. And so
Okay.
you have to find out what works for you. And once you find out what works for you, and it may take a couple of pay periods, but once you find something that works, okay, this works for me, right? That may work well for Coach, that may work well for Sylvia, but you have to work. Everybody's situation is different. But once you get it, be consistent with it.
Okay. Wow. So Miss Sylvia, the debt crusher has just told us we have to be intentional
Mm-hmm.
about our plan. If you want
Mm-hmm.
to save, make sure you have a direct deposit or something in place, especially if you're a little weak, you know what I mean, in that
Yeah.
area. You definitely want to put some checks and balances in place to
Absolutely.
save yourself from yourself, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
the goal is, what is my future going to look like? The goal
Right.
is having enough finances to retire instead of having to work until you're 80.
Exactly.
Which, I mean, if that's your situation, that's fine, but you want to be able to have a choice on
Right.
whether you're working that long or not.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we have to be intentional in our mindset. We have to be intentional in our actions. She said also that you might want to get yourself an accountability partner. And she could probably be a great accountability partner for you, I'm imagining.
Yes. Yes.
So that we're talking about how to sustain all of the wonderful momentum and all of the monies and energy that you have achieved over the process of
Right.
learning how to save and learning how to get yourself into a better financial
Mhm.
situation.
Mhm.
And so before we go though, I want Miss Sylvia to tell us how we can reach her in the event that we need some financial coaching. How can we reach you?
So what I've done now is my coaching is connected with my course.
Mhm.
So I was having problems scheduling, like you schedule and people don't show up and things like that. So I said, I made a digital course. I even dropped the original price, and I've included if you signed up for the course and you need further assistance or have any questions, then that comes along with being a student with the course. The course is self-paced, um, and it's very affordable. And you can go to the dash debt dash crusher dash academy dot thinkific.com. So thinkific is THINKIFIC. And it's also on social medias. If you go to any of my social medias, I have a YouTube channel, I have Instagram, Facebook. The because I know that's a long web address. So you can go there and it's there, and I can put it in the comments later. But that's the best way to go there. And I try to put pointers up and different things about your finances on my site, on my social media sites. But yes, that's the way to reach me. But if you have to call me, my number is 336-790-5192. You would leave a message and I will get back to you. But yes, that's how you can, and I go step by step, just like this gentleman did for me long ago. I give you step by step how to understand your credit, how to read it, how to boost your credit score. The course is actually called the 90-day credit booster
Ooh.
because, like I said, it doesn't happen overnight. And so I give you step by step. There's a bonus of I have an ebook on there where you get a bonus on how to do your budget. So
Okay.
I think you're getting a lot for little. Um, and then the book that I told you about, this is the Financial Freedom Prayer Journal. So I went and I've gotten scripture to back up finances, how to be
Ooh.
financially free. And you can also follow along and log. It has a devotional, it has a prayer on there, it has a scripture, it has where you can log your finances for the month and set your goals for the next month. And so it's 12 months. And so those are that's available on Amazon, or you can go to lifewithsyl.com. That's my website. And you can find that book there as well.
Oh my goodness, all of these wonderful things here you have to offer. The book, the ebook, the journal, the budget. Oh my goodness, so much. You guys, I hope you reach out to Miss Sylvia Tarpley and understand a little bit more about your finances and credit and debt and all of that. I have so enjoyed having you on the
I
healing train
enjoyed my
today.
time.
Choo choo.
Choo, choo.
And always, as always, thank you all so much for joining us here for another
Thank you
episode
guys.
of the Healing Train. And so before we go, I want to let you know that I am praying for you. That in that meantime, I'm going to ask God to bless you really, really good. And if there's something that you're manifesting for, don't give up. Don't give up. I'm telling you,
Amen.
keep up that positive action moving forward. The thing that you're manifesting for is on its way to you now. All right,
Yeah.
guys, we're going to look forward to seeing you again next week. And if you need me for anything, you can reach your coach at b.vonsquires@gmail.com, or you can reach me at spiritsourceconnection.com. And then there's a consultation button there for a free consultation if you'd like to talk to me about your trauma. And if you have an extraordinary story that you'd like to share right here on the Healing Train, just contact me so we can get you in here for your own opportunity to tell us what it is that you have achieved freedom from. We want to know about all of your trauma to triumph and all of your success or struggle to success. All right, with no further ado, we're going to say goodbye for now.
See you later. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed my time.
Oh my goodness, we enjoyed you too. And we'll see you all next week right here on the Healing Train.
Take care. Choo
Bye.
choo.